Don in London, hello. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, equally addictive around people, places and things. So trying to be perfect with the right people, in the right place, doing the right thing, or having the right things. And these days, understanding life is far better if I'm sober one day at a time, living life as it is, life on life's terms, understanding that life can go on without drink. And it's quite a few years now, and I was reminded that it was quite a few years now because I've just come back from a review with my doctor, a medication review, where we discussed the various things I take for type 1 diabetes and clinical depression. And one of the things which I'm always very concerned not to do these days is take any sort of opiate or painkiller which could cause addiction, and take anything which might cause addiction or stop me living life on life's terms, that is, seeing real life as it is. So I'm very pleased that we had a discussion about this, and I said, of course I don't want to take any pain medication for the various pains in my feet, back and extremities, because I'd rather utilise pain as a way of understanding how far I can go and what I can do, which is not common practice according to the adverts on the TV, which suggest you should take all sorts of pain medication to keep on going to the bitter end. And of course it was going on to the bitter end of something, alcohol, that gave me a lot of the problems in the first place. The irony is I got type 1 diabetes, late onset as it's called, in recovery, caused by a surgery which I had, which caused an infection and then a virus. So we are still susceptible to keep on getting everything in recovery. It just means we don't drown our sorrows in a bucket full of alcohol and shorten our lives even further. So I'm very pleased to be in a one-day program, courtesy of family, friends, medical people who helped me along the way, and then the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I speak a lot about AA, but I don't speak for it. There are no spokespeople for AA, quite rightly, because everyone in the fellowship is unique and authentic, and we go to fellowship for one purpose only, to be sober. The rest of life keeps happening, and we all have affiliations outside the fellowship of AA, which means that if we are seen to be affiliated to other things besides fellowship, we are in some ways maybe leaning on our connection to fellowship, which could be dangerous, or we're using fellowship as a vehicle for something else. So I stick with recovery. Don't speak for fellowship, but speak about how fellowship helps me, if that makes sense. Yes, and the most important thing to remember about AA, there are no rules to obey. There are no laws to obey in AA. It is simply a suggested program, and this is how it works. I've found that we find our unique authentic path in life based on our unique authentic take on how to live the 12-step program of AA. But we all come together to share problems, wisdom, and this is how it works. And I'm going to share the AA preamble on this handy little card, which you can't see too well. And it says this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So everybody who goes to AA has their own personal opinion about life, unique and authentic to them, and long may it be so, that we'll come together to talk about sobriety and stay sober. And that's what meetings do. They offer identification to what works in life and what's not working in life. So when you go to a meeting or a group of the Fellowship of AA, you will find people in different states of being happy, being sad, being angry, being extraordinarily ecstatic, being okay just in the moment of now. And I guess most of us are very happy if we're just okay in the moment of now. because that's where all the action happens. And the fellowship program is all about action, these 12 steps to live life, to live our unique, authentic life and follow our passion in life, which is to live it and make the best of what we have, hopefully. So no one can speak for another person, which is absolutely right. What you see is what you get in meetings, which means it's attraction rather than promotion. Promotion suggests that it will solve all your problems today. And the answer is, you'll learn how to solve your problems today with the help of other people. Not necessarily in AA, because AA is for sober, and if we're sober first, then the rest of life can happen as it may. So that's how I see it. And I think that's how most people see it. So I say and emphasise again, no rules or laws, simply suggestions, and that was said by the co-founder, Bill Wilson. So what are the 12 steps? Well, I'm covering one a month here, and for May it's step 5, obviously, if I do them in chronological order, which says, admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And in my life I've been agnostic, atheist, God believer. Still I have to rely on my life experience to guide me in my beliefs. So what I know is I'm not God, and there are greater powers than me in the universe, and some may live just next door in terms of their wisdom, or live down the road, or they may live in a far-flung place, but they have some wisdom to offer me. So I listen carefully to those people. I listen to all wisdom as best I can, so that I can be more informed in my choices on a daily basis. So sober comes first, and the rest of life can happen. Not easy, because when I was first trying to get sober, I was not a good student. And I said this in one of my other videos, and somebody picked up on that and said, well, if you were a better student, you would know you shouldn't promote yourself with AA. And of course I don't. This is about what you see is what you get. And if you don't like it, there's a button, and it's the off button, and good if you don't want it. You're making a good choice for yourself, and that's good. So for me, I do these videos to inform and share and express about recovery for me and why fellowship works for me. So in January, first step was all about being powerless over alcohol, and if I kept on drinking, life would be unmanageable, and my life was being cut short. And it was cut short in so many different ways in the end, that my life consisted of a park bench, my own head, and a drink in hand. That's how bad it got. And having had the last rites, even though I'm not a Roman Catholic. And I did complain about that. And the priest involved said, you shouldn't be so fussy at this stage in your life. So it did get desperate, and I didn't know where to turn, and in the end I surrendered and said to myself, I don't know how to do this. That was my first moment of clarity. Step 2, which I covered in February, came to believe that a power greater than myself, or ourselves, could restore us to sanity. And the power greater than me is nature, providence, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. It's the wisdom of the universe. It's the truth of what is now, not my opinion about it, or what my expectations I thought were, and what I deserved. I don't deserve anything. I deserve to give it a shot. That is life, sober. And that's what I decided. But then I needed an awful lot of help from people in meetings of the fellowship, where what I saw was what I got. And I saw a lot of people new like me, and I stuck with them as a band of happy wanderers around meetings where I live. And I also listened to the wisdom of people who've been sober quite a while, and that served me as a higher power, and still does to a great extent. And then step 3, which I covered in March, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. Well, a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, good conscience, the wisdom of others, whatever it happens to be in your life is what is going to work for you. Not what I may believe or what another person may believe. It's what you come to believe for yourself. And then step 4 made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. In other words, an appraisal of good and bad. What made us angry, resentful, full of expectations which were not possible, and kept us drinking. Or, the disappointments of life, I guess, and also drinking on success, which maybe could not be sustained. And the point is to sustain life in the moment and make the best of what we have now. And then this month, admitted to God, to ourselves and another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And admission, expression, getting it out there is what it is for me. It means that I don't hold it in. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to put on an act to the rest of the world. And today when I go see a doctor, there is still this feeling inside me, and the adrenaline says there's nothing wrong with you, why are you going? And of course I've got type 1 diabetes, which I got in recovery, late onset it is called. I shouldn't have got type 1 in my late 40s, but I had an operation and it caused an infection and then a virus and then type 1 diabetes. So one of the things of recovery I deal with on a daily basis, and the subsequent side effects of all those different conditions which go with it, which caused me quite a lot of pain. And as I said to the doctor today, I don't want to be taking opiates or sleeping pills because I have these things to contend with, insomnia and pain. And he said, why is that? And I said, because it's now a few years sober and I don't want to go back to something which I will then rely on and then can abuse to find oblivion from whatever it is that ails me. Because pain tells me to stop. It tells me to stop doing something when it's too painful, rather than the advert on the TV which says, take this pain medication and you will see it through to the end of whatever it is you're doing. And that's what I used alcohol for, and it killed me nearly. It certainly killed the old career. So step 5 in May, the first couple of paragraphs in this book, 12 and 12, 12 steps and 12 traditions, says some important things about what step 5 is. As it reads, admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. All of AA's 12 steps ask us to go contrary to our natural desires. They deflate our egos. When it comes to ego deflation, that is, the things which make us think we know we're right and everybody else is wrong, few steps are harder to take than step 5. But scarcely any step is more necessary to long time sobriety and peace of mind than this one. AA experience has taught us we cannot live alone with our pressing problems and the character defects which cause or aggravate them. In other words, we can't live with anger, resentment and high expectations which cannot be met. If we have swept the searchlight of step 4 back and forth over our careers, and it has revealed in stark relief those experiences we would rather not remember, if we have not come to know how wrong thinking and action have hurt us and others, then the need to stop living by ourselves with those tormenting ghosts of yesterday gets more urgent than ever. We have to talk to somebody about them. So part of the process of AA is taking us out of isolation and back into being included in the world. And this book I read over and over, because, not the big one like that, I had a small handy version to carry around in my pocket. I've still got it, it's falling to pieces because it went everywhere with me. And it didn't make any sense for ages and ages until I actually started to live the 12 steps. And that is not to be rigid. The 12 steps give me the greatest freedom today, the freedom of choice, based on real life. In this book, Daily Reflections, it covers each step, a step a month. So, with step 5 in mind, it says here, May 9th, walking through fear. If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us to be willing. In other words, to let go of self-will, let go of trying to be right, let go of being fearful, let go of having to put on a brave face, a stiff upper lip, let go of being right. Yeah, and especially on a day when I go see a doctor who doesn't live with the conditions I have, it's difficult because the doctor feels he needs to give me advice which I already know. So there we go. I cope with that. I just let it go. I am letting it go, but it takes a little bit of effort because I still want to criticise everything to do with the doctor's surgery because it's dirty. Not because the doctor's dirty, but because the surgery itself is dirty, and that sets off a chain of events in my head where I want to write a letter of how to get the thing clean. And I'm not going to do it because it's a waste of my time and effort, and certainly if it hasn't been made clean in the last few years by other people complaining, then I ain't going to get anywhere either. So, what does it say today? When I had taken my 5th step, I became aware that all my defects of character stemmed from my need to feel secure and loved. Yes, I felt unloved and insecure because it was dirty down at the surgery. To use my will alone to work on them would have been trying obsessively to solve the problem. In other words, give them a cleaning schedule, which I think is routine and can be done easily by anybody with a set of a bottle of disinfectant and a cloth. Well, it wouldn't work that way, would it? Anyway, in the 6th step, I intensified the action I had taken in the first 3 steps, meditating on the step by saying it over and over, going to meetings, following my sponsor's suggestions, reading and searching within myself. In other words, letting the world in over and over again. Let the world in and it will be all right. During the first 3 years of sobriety, I had fear of entering an elevator alone, or as we call it, a lift in this country. One day I decided I must walk through this fear. I asked for God's help, entered the elevator, and there in the corner was a lady crying. She said that since her husband had died, she was deathly afraid of elevators. I guess he must have died in one. I don't think so. Anyway, I forgot my fear and comforted her. This spiritual experience helped me to see how willingness was the key to work the rest of the 12 steps to recovery. God helps those who help themselves. That's partly what our national health system wants us to do. The national health system wants us to help ourselves and choose the right doctor, the right method of this, that and the other. But I have to follow advice. You know, life is not all about self-managed programs, and often self-managed programs are limited by the amount of self-knowledge. So as I don't know everything on a daily basis, in fact I prefer not to know very much. I prefer to say I don't know the answer to that, so I can at least get some advice and wisdom from another person. So my higher power is not based on somebody sitting on a cloud looking down on me with answers. My higher power comes in the form of wisdom from other people, finding out what the truth of my situation is, and understanding what love is, being able to love people and then love me back without conditions, or just simply be friendly, to be included in life rather than excluding people, making decisions, having high expectations and nothing happening. So these days, life is about gradual change. The fundamental change I took to stop drinking came after a long period of in-out relapse, thinking, however is this going to work? Because I didn't get the simple message, which is, I was powerless over alcohol. Self-will would not work. No matter how much I would try and self-manage myself, I couldn't. I needed help, wisdom. And that came from AA. And as I say, in AA, what you see is what you get. Some people with wisdom and it's going to work. Some people with balderdash, full of ego, crap, useless stuff. And we're all in that boat from day to day. So that's why group meetings work, because we hear the wisdom of what is working and we hear the misunderstanding of what is not working today. I'm relieved to be in recovery just for today. I'm lucky, and that's how it works for me. If I try to make it a longer time scale in relation to sobriety, I get stuck, because sobriety only works now. But it doesn't mean I can't make longer term plans to stick around in life, follow the diabetic regime, look after what I can to do with clinical depression, to be aware of my emotions, my spiritual and my physical well-being. So emotionally, how am I feeling? Okay right now. Spiritually, I'm more in the moment of now because I'm talking about it. That's what spiritual is, the ability to cope with now. You know, there is no such thing as a guru or a spiritual superior in the human form. There are people who are more practiced at living in reality and coping with our spiritual connection to now, because that's what they've been doing all their lives. And there are some of us who are learning how to do it. We're not playing catch up, because it's not about being the same as anyone. It's about living reality as it is. Now, why couldn't I get that a lot sooner? And the answer was because I was frightened of being found out. And these days I'd rather be found out for who I am. And then I can be accepted or rejected, and that's good. It means I live as it is. The serenity prayer, which helps me at any time of day or on a daily basis, is the can do, can't do, and the wisdom to know the difference prayer. To God or good conscience, as you come to believe for yourself. It's your own personal belief of what works for you, always authentic and unique to you. So to God, in my case, yeah, because I'm not frightened of the word God or what that implies these days. What it implies is I'm not God and I need help. God, I need help. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And when I don't know the difference, I surely ask as many people as seem right to ask, until a better answer comes along. Always for now and just for today. Don in London, hello. May 9th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, anything you might want it to be. Trying to be perfect, please others. And in the end I didn't please anybody particularly, because I was stuck in a malady so bad I couldn't get out of it on my own. And some people say we get a moment of clarity in addiction, where we realise that this cannot go on, and this cannot be beaten by my willpower. And I was very lucky. I was still just about alive, and with enough hope to say to myself, life cannot get any worse than it is right now. And no matter what I do, I cannot do it on my own. So the revelation, if you like, the actual clear point, or that point of clarity, the moment of clarity, was simply admitting I was human, and that any human is capable of anything, either to the good of life or the bad of life, or the detriment of not only themselves but people around them, including me. That I was fallible, and I didn't have enough willpower or self-will or self-obsession to stop drinking, because I was addicted physically, emotionally, and was spiritually bankrupt. That is, I couldn't see reality. I couldn't see beyond the end of my nose, and my world was turned inside out and very much inwards and fearful, and I tried to put on a brave face but failed, and ego failed me, and I had no faith about living. So I had no faith, courage or confidence to go on. And when I got to that place, I said to a medical person, please, I cannot do this on my own, I need help. That was it, the game was up, and I gave up self-will, I guess, but often I take it back again, and I find myself in the same predicament. If I don't stick to the truth, if I don't include people in what is going on for me, I exclude them, and I exclude them from the truth of me, and that makes me dishonest. So I need to share the truth of me, even warts and all, because you know what? We're all human, and we're very, very human humans when we're able to admit I need help, or we need help. And why? Because going it alone, trying to win at all costs and put myself right, or yourself right, may lead to the most obsessive behaviour in the world. And once we're in it, getting out of it and becoming human again is very, very difficult. So we all learn a day at a time, and if we give each other the opportunity, stop judging and start mending, repairing ourselves and learning from our experiences, then we gain wisdom, and we find a bit of serenity in the day, a bit of peacefulness. We don't necessarily feel on top of the world or at the lowest. Somewhere in there is a bit of peace, understanding where we are today. And if we understand our human condition, our emotional, spiritual and physical being in the now, we have a better opportunity to make the most of what is, rather than wish it something else for the future, or looking back to the good times or the bad old times. So, you know, it's an honest appraisal of now. And that's very much the fellowship of AA's job, if you like. A fellowship there to help people understand themselves a little bit better, and get some self-help and learn some wisdom from what other people share. So experience, strength and hope. Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship, helps me every day. And if I can't get to a meeting, and I didn't get to one yesterday, I had other things on my mind, I need to go today. But in the meanwhile, I did do a video, and I did share some readings which helped me get me through the day and re-examine my honesty, because I can get so dishonest in a day just by trying to be what you want me to be, rather than saying, how am I feeling, why, what can I do? And the outcome is, if I tell the truth about how I'm feeling and why and what can I do, I can get an honest answer back from the people around me. I can help you, I can't help you. I can love you just as you are, or I can't love you because you're something I don't believe exists. So that's how we go. And it's a daily process. After all, we are human, and if we didn't learn, we wouldn't be perfect. We would just be imperfect. So I'm glad I'm imperfect, and I want to share a bit about the fellowship. So at every meeting I go to, there is a preamble shared to get people in the mood for listening and being a part of. So I'm just reaching for my coffee. And behind me, over my shoulder, up there, is Nelson Mandela, and South Africa has a new Prime Minister, I think, in the last 24 hours, or inaugurated. Things change, don't they? It may take hundreds of years sometimes, but things change. And I realise that on a daily basis I can change just a little bit, incrementally, towards being myself and knowing who I am just for today. So this preamble and the fellowship, I don't speak for the fellowship of AA, and I don't speak for people in it. Everybody is unique and authentic, goes in that way, comes out that way, but we have this one similarity, and this is what the preamble says about this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and that's it. The only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And it's very easy for us to all have judgments about how people are doing with their recovery. And the worst thing in the world is when an old-timer, somebody who's been around a while in AA, starts judging people by their own standards, and they become what are known as bleeding deacons. In my day it was like this, and when I was a lad it was like that. Bleeding deacons are around us all the time, and mainly when we look in the mirror. So when we look in the mirror and we're not using our wisdom but using our judgment, we switch from being an old-timer with wisdom to share, to a bleeding deacon with a problem which is not really anybody else's fault. It's how we react and respond to our living. So that fellowship thing really is important. Experience, strength and hope. And so we hear the good of life and the bad of life, how people are doing with their daily recovery, and how they're making a mess of it sometimes, simply because when we break something, it doesn't glue back together quite as it was before. Sometimes it's improved, sometimes it's not improved. So we learn on a daily basis and keep on going. And I will be going to meetings today. I intend to get to 2, but in the meantime, the daily reflections for today. AA Literature, May 9th, it says walking through fear. So I think this is rather appropriate to me always. If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing, or good conscience, or whatever it is that you can see as a power greater than ourselves, and that for me is good conscience, God, whatever it is. When I'd taken the 5th step, which is to share my fearless moral inventory, I became aware that all my defects of character stem from my need to feel secure and loved. To use my will alone to work on them would have been trying obsessively to solve the problem. In the 6th step, I intensified the action I'd taken in the first 3 steps, meditating on the step by saying it over and over, going to meetings, following my sponsor's suggestions, reading and searching within myself. During the first 3 years of sobriety, I had a fear of entering an elevator alone. One day I decided I must walk through this fear. I asked God for God's help, entered the elevator, and there in the corner was a lady crying. She said that since her husband had died, she was deathly afraid of elevators. I forgot my fear and comforted her.
This spiritual experience helped me to see how willingness was the key to working the rest of the 12 steps to recovery. God helps those who help themselves, and often with consultation with other people who are just as fearful about some things. And out of that comes, we stop brave facing it. We stop using our ego to keep people out. And as I say, I feel fearful about X, Y, or Z, or this fear. I fear not being loved. So I'm checking my time. Either it was Freud or somebody said 1,000,000 years ago, the 3 elements that make human living worthwhile is to love, be loved, and have something useful to do. So if we fear we're not being loved, or we fear loving somebody and they're not loving us back, we put up the barrier, we put on the brave face, and we have ego. But, or if we find a bit of faith, courage and confidence to say, I'm fearful, but I have to tell you I love you. Well, I don't have to. I love you, and you don't have to love me back. Well, you might do when you get to know me. So we open up a door, and we can keep on walking along. So when I say, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, just truth in this one day will help me more than anything I can ever imagine.